Tell me when to hit it.
Hit it. Welcome to the Invest in Yourself podcast, brought to you by Lewis Real Estate, recorded at the Lewis Business Center in West Hartford, Connecticut. I'm your host, Razul Wallace, and today we have Jah, J-A-H, as in happy. Jah is the Director of Sales and Community Relations with over 20 years of sales management experience, and he's been working with Scott since 2022. Thanks for joining us today, Jah.
Thank you, Razul. Happy to be here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Tell us about yourself and what you do here with Lewis Real Estate and beyond.
Okay. So I think the proudest thing I am is being a father. So I have two kids.
Nice.
My son Izel is 11, and my daughter Zolani is almost 7. Her birthday's coming up soon.
Beautiful kids.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
got the pleasure of meeting them a couple times.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun, a lot of
Yeah.
energy,
Yeah.
very active. So
Yes,
I
yes.
feel very, very blessed and highly favored.
Yes, sir.
So I grew up in the Bronx with a twin brother. My mom had my twin brother and I when she was 20. Made the wise decision of leaving my dad before we were 1. And, I'm very blessed to have her. And met my stepdad when we were 10. Younger than 10. They met him when we were younger than 10, but they got married when my twin brother and I were 10.
Okay.
And then we moved to Waterbury. They had 3 more kids. So there's 3 Jahs. So I'm Javille.
Yeah.
My twin brother is Javin.
Okay.
And then
All
my
right.
next sibling for my mom's kids is Jair.
Okay.
Yep. And then they kept the J's going. So then it's Jordan and Jadakiss. So Jair is 11 years younger. Jordan is 13 years younger. Jadakiss is 14 years younger.
Wow.
Yeah. So I knew in high school, because of the age gap, I felt more like an uncle.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
my most important thing I could do personally was be a dad. So I had that mindset, going into college.
Well, and I think that the significance of it is kind of clear in a lot of the other projects that you do.
Yeah.
More specifically, your not-for-profit that's focused around men and fatherhood. Can you tell us
Yeah.
about that a little bit?
Yep. So the name of it is Abba. So we added the H, so ABBAH.
All right.
And in Hebrew, it means papa or daddy. So typically you refer to your father as papa or daddy or baba. That means you have an authentic relationship with them, with that parent.
Yeah.
So it was very purposeful why I chose that name. And so I've been in sales, like you said, for over 20 years. I started my freshman year at UConn in 2004. And when it was finally time to launch my own thing, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I started praying and meditating, and trying to, figure it out. And eventually what I heard was, fathering. And so that's why I decided to go that route and try to make an impact on the community. So our main objective is to encourage men and try to refocus some of the programming that we're kind of grow up with, especially in the inner city with high incarceration rates,
Yep.
with mass incarceration. So try to get more fathers engaged and present and really developed in a relationship with their children.
I love it. I love it. So you have Abba.
Yeah.
You are the Director of Sales and Community Relations here at Scott Lewis Real Estate.
Yep.
In addition to being a father, you have a lot going on.
Yep.
How do you, manage everything? You know what I'm saying?
So, so what I try to do is compartmentalize it. So back in July, I made a decision to cut out roughly 35 hours from what I do with the real estate firm. So that freed up time to go all in with launching this company, ABBA. And then all my jobs are kind of flexible. So, I try my best to walk my kids to school every morning. That's really important. So I do. I've always been the show in the morning. So like from the time my kids wake up, making sure they make breakfast, get dressed. I try to make that my priority because in sales, a lot of times I was working weekends and nights.
Yeah.
So I can consistently be there in the morning, especially when my son was born. I was mainly in retail sales, specifically mattresses.
Yeah.
And so it's easier for me to go in, after 8 a.m., after 9 than it is to guarantee I'm gonna be there for dinner.
Right.
But I'm proud of the decisions and listening to my wife. A lot of times I get to put them to bed almost every night, which I'm very happy about that. So it's just kind of from a lot of research. I'm 39 now.
Yeah.
So you just kind of fail forward and learn new things. So I try to put like the best I can, the first things first. So so those two are my main responsibility.
Yeah.
And also trying my best to be a good partner to my wife.
Yeah.
So I try to put those priorities first and then work everything around from there.
No, so I love that intentional planning to make sure that your kids feel your presence each day. I do it a little bit differently. The way you do it is very thoughtful, and I'm gonna kind of register that and maybe to apply it at some point in the future. But I do with, like you said, having the flexible schedule. For me, what I ended up doing is figuring out whatever they have going on, and I'm able to kind of secure that in the schedule and then plan my stuff around it to some degree.
That makes sense.
But that is a very, I like that.
Thank you.
That, yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us about where you're at with your businesses or your different entities, where you come from, and then where you want to go.
So in July is when I decided to go all in with launching ABBA. So we're blessed here at Lewis, where we have commercial real estate right here in the center.
Yeah.
So space is not an issue. So what I did was I rented out space in one of the buildings, so 75 Brace Road. I took the entire third floor. So there's a little conference room area, and there's also 4 offices. So it allows me to kind of grow into it. And then from there, it was more of a leap of faith. I wasn't sure how things would kind of shape out.
Yeah.
So I also said, you know what, I have so much sales management experience. I decided, to be able to generate revenue may make sense to start a consulting company too. But recently I decided I'll put a lot more of my energy just into the not-for-profit.
Gotcha.
So in the process of like kind of building out what that looks like, how it feels, different programs, I spend a lot of time trying to be exposed to leaders, executives within other nonprofits. We actually have 2 in our building currently. So we have the Ron Foley Foundation that's focused on pancreatic cancer. And then we have the Jay Bissell Foundation. And they fund nonprofits in the Hartford area.
That's what's up.
So, I'm blessed to be able to have direct access there and then continue to kind of, leverage that. So one fun program I just took on yesterday, Microsoft funds training for AI. So I reached out. Steam Train is the not-for-profit that has that funding for them here in Connecticut, and they're based out of Middletown.
Steam Train?
Steam Train. So Donna is the lead executive there, and she's the founder. And so I said, can we, have the space? Can we host that here? She said, absolutely. And it made sense because she uses AI to get she utilized AI when she's applying for grants to help save time.
Wow.
And then the way she uses the AI, sometimes you have a hard time finding certain documents because you have so many files.
Yeah.
She actually uses the AI to get access to files a lot quicker. You just ask it a question and it could read through all your files and find exactly what you're looking for. So it expedites a lot of what you're doing.
Man.
And then it kind of learns. So just knowing, so what we decided was we're gonna invite a lot of executives like yourself
Yeah.
To this. So it was going to be February 27th.
February 27th.
In our Farmington building. So the address will be 998 Farmington Ave here in West Hartford.
You know what day of the week that is?
That's a Thursday,
Awesome.
and it's from, we decided 4:30 to 6:30 p.m.
Perfect.
And the suite number is 103 on a lower level.
All right.
So
That's exciting.
very exciting. The fact that, to be able to use funding from Microsoft is fun.
Yeah.
So it should be a good event. I've been to one of those trainings. That's how I knew about it.
Yeah.
And I knew I wanted to host it. Just a way to get more exposure, add value.
Yeah.
So if I'm trying to get exposure and experience and wisdom,
Yeah.
let's try to pay that forward. And,
Yeah, for sure.
So it's a symbiotic type of relationship.
For sure.
Yeah.
One of the strengths that I've noticed in my time knowing you is your people and networking skills are second to none.
Oh, thank you.
And you're very good at connecting the dots. And one of the challenges I think most entrepreneurs have, including myself, is figuring out how much, because there's activities that you do to kind of build relationships, goodwill, kind of all the intangible aspects of business.
Yeah.
And then there's revenue generating activities.
Yep.
Which is, I think, a big challenge for most entrepreneurs, and balancing how much of each. How do you navigate that?
So, over the years, as you train and manage salespeople,
Yeah.
you have to teach them like a sales process and how to get there. And one of my favorite ones was always relationship building, because if you're focused on building relationships, you're gonna listen better. You're gonna uncover issues that they don't know. You know how to ask the right questions. So that has served me as I moved into spaces where you network and get to know people and grow.
Yeah.
So that's really where it started. And then, when you have to do that stuff, as a job, you learn different strategies. So here in West Hartford, we're blessed to have the West Hartford Chamber.
That's a really good one. That's
it's
probably
excellent.
like the best one in this state. Or
It is, in my opinion, is definitely the best one, and
Yeah.
it's the biggest single town chamber.
Yeah.
And then the leadership there is incredible. But they have a lot of different resources that way, and just managing your time and your effectiveness. I'm actually looking to join the Rotary Club because it really aligns well with my company's vision, my personal vision, and then it doesn't conflict with my with a lot of the activities that I would do with the chamber.
Yeah.
But the key is to, like, I noticed you can make a lot of connections, but you got to make sure you have the resources to maximize those connections.
For sure.
So a lot of people will go into a room and they're focused on getting as much contacts as possible.
Yeah.
You're better off just focused on one person that you naturally connect with and really get to know them, where you feel comfortable enough asking them for their cell phone, right? Their personal cell phone. And if you can earn that, it's a lot different than, if you're just going in and not caring, not being curious and not caring for them as a person.
Yeah.
And that seems to serve me really well. And then you do it consistently. Sometimes you get lucky and you become a little magnetic. So then people are coming to see you because you've been resourceful with connecting people. And if you care, you listen, you're going to remember, and care about the things they care about. And then like one of the things I wrote down, like in my personal development for the next 30 days was kind of building my tribe. So like-minded people who have the same core values that I have, in reference to kindness and, being empathetic, things of that nature. So, when you're talking to people, you're asking questions, you're kind of looking for those type of traits. Hence why you and I get along so well.
For sure. Yeah, I think hearing you say that, it does make a lot of sense, because it does feel like when you're talking, you're very intentional and really good at kind of connecting. And I think that is what really helps you to make those like stronger connections. So and that definitely helps me to get a much better understanding, and I think it's really smart. You go essentially when you're networking, you go deep, not wide.
I try my best. So, and there's a balance because you have to really be listening because their body cues may say, I don't want to go deep, right?
Yeah,
So you just kind of meet them where they are,
Yeah.
and you kind of learn the balance as you go.
yeah,
But the key is the follow up aspect, maintaining the contact. You only have one chance to make a first impression.
yeah.
So if you win on a lot of those categories, when you do reach out, they tend to be very receptive.
Okay, I like it. I like it. The name of the show is the Invest in Yourself podcast.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about the best investment that you've made in yourself? Or the top couple if you have more than one.
So like I do a lot of like personal development.
Yeah.
So that's like ongoing. So my spiritual belief and my faith, I would say, is my number one, like that I like intentionally worked on. So growing up in New York City, in the Bronx, we were poor. My mom had to establish a career and a legacy. I was very proud when she bought her house. I think it was 1996.
Oh, wow.
When she bought her house. I remember when she bought her first car. She bought a brand new Toyota Tercel.
Wow.
I believe my twin brother and I were 7 or 8.
Yeah. They don't make that model anymore.
I'm not sure. Yeah,
I haven't seen it.
I think the Corolla is like the exact size of what that was back then.
Wow.
So I remember, the sacrifices she made, and a lot of the great decisions that she made. Especially when we were younger, before she had more kids, right?
Right.
So moving to Waterbury turned out to be a very good decision. So I started going to school in Waterbury in the 8th grade.
Yeah.
So I didn't make those decisions, right? My mom did, but I knew one of my goals was, since I knew I wanted to be a good father, was number one, like your partner matters, right? So making sure like you kind of know what values you're looking for a partner, and you kind of look at dating very differently, right? So a great decision was me having my wife, and she challenges me all the time, right?
Right.
But when I always look back, like when I graduated from UConn, choosing West Hartford to live and having access to West Hartford, being able to walk to the kids' school, the diversity there from all over the world. So like a good example is his best friend across the street. They're from South America, right? Born there, right?
Nice, yeah.
His other best friend a block away. Their parents were born in Turkey, and in my neighborhood here in West Hartford, you'll find that all over. They specifically call it Elmwood, so 06110.
Yeah.
And I suspect there's a lot of that throughout all of West Hartford. I think that's huge to be able to raise. So from where I started and where I am today, I know from like the way I feel is from my faith and making that decision to kind of trust God, honor God, and the language I like to use is surrender and obey. So just try to be consistent with doing what I need to do in the mornings, or certain devotions. So little rituals here and there.
Yeah.
Like I do some like crazy stuff, like some funny stuff. Like I keep a certain amount of quarters in my left pocket at all times, so it feels like I have the Lord with me. So
that's interesting.
And then when I imagine the Holy Spirit, I try to imagine the Holy Spirit like a GPS.
Yeah.
So try my best to stay on the yellow brick road.
Yeah.
So faith is all about trust. Because it's not concrete. It's not
Yeah.
So figuring out ways to deepen that trust, because you could always better your best.
Yeah.
has, in my opinion, led me to where I am today, and me being able to, my kids having the life that they have, and slowly building out a legacy.
That's what's up. So let's, you brought up your spiritual journey as your most significant investment.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding that a little bit more, I think, you mind if I dive into that a little bit?
I don't mind at all.
Because I know it can be personal, but a lot of the things you said is very interesting because my spiritual journey has kind of increased quite a bit. And I find that there are times when it comes to business that they're in alignment and that they're both of them require like personal growth and development.
Mm-hmm.
But then some of the things that, from my spiritual beliefs, I think one of the most significant things you need is basically space and time to yourself, just quiet and silence.
Yeah, I agree.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But the nature of business is that the more you do, the less of that you have. So for me, it always feels
It's
like
a hard balance,
a pull, between, which one am I going to focus on? With that being said, I got sidetracked a little bit. Can you tell us a little, like,
how to blend it? 'Cause I figure out ways to blend it a little bit.
So yes, I do want to hear that,
Mm-hmm.
but then also a little bit more about the intricacies. For example, you said that there's a certain amount of trust, and the way that what that felt like to me is getting a better, like, maybe trust in yourself, because a lot of hearing from, the Holy Spirit or the universe, however you perceive that higher power, is in that silence. And then it can be very like faint or subtle.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of have the space, the patience, and then when you hear it, to actually trust and act on it.
Yes.
So do you mind just talking about that a little bit more?
No, I don't mind at all. So like the first thing I would say is I think people experience their connection with higher power differently.
Yeah.
So whether it's expressed when they're writing, or listening to music, I love people who are connected with nature. In my opinion, there's a lot of different ways to connect with a higher power if that's something that you're intentionally seeking. Say again the specific question so I can answer it perfectly.
No, you're answering it well. And I think that now is a good time to actually, because you say how you balance it, right?
Okay.
It's how you balance it between, the business and the personal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one thing I noticed, right, in business and like when I was in Catholic school, from first grade to fifth grade, a lot of leadership leaned on fear, right?
Yeah.
And as you move up in leadership and you go and hopefully move into ownership, you'll notice a lot of the things written, like when you first on board someone or someone does something wrong, how do you reprimand them? It's usually fear-based. So what I try to do is, and I've done, is I'll like use the definition of love in the Bible and then what love is not, and then try to implement that language into it. So I've been for years trying to manage more with love and kindness than with fear, and not as a weakness, but more as a strength.
I hear that.
And that has served me very well, because even if someone's not a good fit, if you're doing it in a loving way, you're trying to guide them to move into something that's a better fit. And a lot of times I'll notice they'll make the move on their own, so it makes the whole journey. And then at some point, sometimes you reconnect, on a different capacity. It may not be in that same professional environment.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, in a lot of ways, you do have choices if you're conscious of it, to me, like those are the kind of the conscious decisions I would try to make. So I feel like I'm connected to my belief system. I'm connected to faith. I'm connected, to God. Some of the scriptures that help is, especially on the hard days, is I try to imagine, they say lean on God. So what does that look like? Right. So it may be a crutch, right? If my leg is broken, right? Or let's say I had knee surgery and I'm using a cane. So then I try to imagine those type of things, right? If I'm going into higher elevation, maybe is trying to imagine like wings. So I'm like uplifting. So I'm doing better than just walking. So and then if I'm and I'll ask like help me speak. When I'm speaking to this person, that kind of helps bring all the work I do in silence. So like some of the rituals I try to do consistently is I try to wake up around 4 a.m. And part of that is prayer. It might be reading a scripture, or maybe meditation. That is very quiet up until about 7. 7 is when people get up, and then usually my phone is not really ringing until about 9, right?
Right.
So I can get a lot done personally and professionally, from that time. So those are kind of the consistent rituals,
I like
that I kind of build in. And then, I always try to better my best, and then try to be forgiving. So I just joined a men's Bible study group, so I know it meets on a Tuesday. I'm not sure if it's monthly or, weekly, but, just trying to be more conscious of that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And then kind of growing, because you can always I always say you could always better your best.
Yes, sir. I love that. I appreciate you sharing that with us. There's a lot that you just said there, and I'm trying to unpack it to some degree. What would you say is one of the worst investments that you've made?
Like personally, like I've had friends who have betrayed me, so I made assumptions that their value system matched my value system.
Yeah.
And when there was opportunities to make a decision that benefit them and really devastated me, unfortunately that has happened. But to me, I don't look at any investment as bad.
Yeah.
To me, those are huge, because it allows you can make a decision in those moments. I try my best, not saying I'm perfect at it or great at it, but there's a lesson to be learned in there.
Yeah.
And I try to look at it as a test.
Yeah.
And I don't want to retake that test again. So I really want to slow down and pay attention to what I need to learn in this moment.
Yeah.
To try to not be in this position again. So I have because you always have challenges. I hope to have, instead of being at phase 1 or stage 1, hopefully the next challenge is at stage 2 or stage 3.
Yeah.
So I try not to stay. I try my best. Not saying I'm doing it perfectly, but that's the mindset on it.
Okay. And I fully agree with that sentiment. That question is kind of an interesting one to me, because I don't really think that there's bad investments either. I think every opportunity is an opportunity to learn and grow. But I think, and when people respond, I think the biggest, most common response is if I had to summarize it, there was a relationship where they got out of alignment, essentially. And that alignment could have, misalignment could have moral implications, or just a lack of care for, it could be a perception thing too. I know in my experience, it was agreements that I made with people, and you kind of just gave trust based on the relationship.
Yep.
But they just didn't do, like, you meet your end of the obligation, and then they just don't meet theirs.
Yeah.
Now, there's one instance I could think of where I was on the other side of that, where I didn't meet mine, but I really did my best to meet it. It just wasn't feasible, So I think
probably like overpromised.
Yeah, I think maybe you just don't recognize your lack of experience in that instance.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I think, reflecting on that, the biggest lessons I took from that experience was, one, to be physically closer to projects that I'm doing.
Okay.
Because then I can have more insights. Since then, I've kind of added another variable, like if I have the ability to develop processes and systems and have people in place with specific responsibilities that they've shown the proficiency in those responsibilities, then it can be a little bit more distant. So that's why process has become more significant for me. And then the other thing is is the experience of the people I'm working with in the thing that we're doing.
Okay.
You know, so I think that those are two of the biggest takeaways. But you know, like I said, it was a bad investment. Or I'll say it another way. I heard this say there's no bad investments. The biggest risk is the people actually doing it.
Yeah.
Essentially. So that's you know.
And how long you been in ownership?
In real estate, or
just ownership of whether it's real estate or like more on the business and not
business
personal.
So I've been trying things probably since I was like 22.
Okay.
And there's been a lot of
you're the
trial
same age as I am, because I'm 39.
I think it's funny you said that because you entered UConn in 2004. That was the year after I left UConn.
Yeah.
So we're just about 4 years apart.
Actually, I got there 2003.
You got there 2003.
Yeah, but I graduated undergrad in 2008. So most people assume I got there 04, but actually 03.
So you got there in the fall of 03?
Yeah, you're probably already gone.
I left in the spring of 03,
yeah.
so I just missed you. That's so funny.
But it's a big school, so I don't know.
It is. But we both played football, though.
That's true.
So we would have come across each other there.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. How do you maintain motivation and discipline?
So I find it best is surrounding yourself with people that are motivated. So
I hear that.
you know, and you know, that's something I learned from listening to like Les Brown and other influential, you know, motivational speakers. And then as a young kid, I always studied Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
So in reference to social change, and you know, my degree at UConn was sociology, but it was focused on you know, business management. So you know, I knew I wanted to go into sales management, you know, by my junior year, but my main degree is in sociology. Just trying to understand the first reason why I chose it was I always thought I was going to be an attorney before I went to college.
Yeah.
And you know, like you want to eliminate bias as best you can in order to serve people. And I felt if I understood people better, it'll allow me to serve better and eliminate bias. So I'm not assuming anything. I'm actually asking questions, and then I have a guide of reference to kind of base that off of what they're sharing and know how to ask a question. So a lot of that has shaped me and got me where I am today, just like most people. You know, and a lot of what you're talking about in reference to you know, things you regret or not regret. Like I've been really focused, like moving forward, you know, over the last like year or so on decisions, and you know, really thinking about, you know, long term. If I look back 10 years from now or on my deathbed, would I be proud of this decision or would I not be proud of this decision? Do I you know, want to be a little selfless in this situation, or do I want to be a little selfish in this situation? So, you know, really taking pauses and breath, which sounds like you do a great job of doing, to, you know, allow me thinking through something to make a decision versus just an emotional reaction. Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. So you actually answered the next question. How conscious are you about intentionally creating your environment? And it sounds, you just said, you know, you're very conscious about creating that network of people around you that are doing things and striving for and going to the same places that you want to go to. So I can definitely appreciate that. And what ways do you create or foster a productive and supportive environment? You've alluded to it quite a bit in this chat, but let's dive into that a little bit more.
So to be honest, you can make it very simple, right? You get out what you put in, right?
Yeah.
So you're investing in your people and you truly care. They tend to pay that forward. right? And if you really understand like your true responsibility, like any company is providing a service to make society better, make their environment better, right?
Yeah.
And you know, the people on the front line on any company, in my opinion, are the most important.
Yeah, for sure.
And my job is to serve them.
Yeah.
And over the years, service is something, especially if you're in sales management, that's like pivotal. Service, especially service prior to closing a transaction, and what that looks like. How does it process the timing? So it's something I always look at, and to link it with faith. I always imagine, and where I'm at now is Jesus Christ washing his disciples' feet. So the leader is in service to his disciples, the people who are really important. And like I still wash bathrooms. I still take out trash. There's in most environments there's not one job I didn't at least touch once. And I hope that I can keep developing better listening skills. So listening is not like a natural gift that I have. So I think listening is really important because somebody may have a perspective that's really important for you to hear, and you understanding it is really important. But you have but so much bandwidth too. So it's really kind of knowing how to manage your time and have the right resources around you and ask for help when you're supposed to ask for help.
I like it. What's one piece of advice you give to someone starting their entrepreneurial journey?
Make sure what you're deciding to do, you're actually passionate about. So that's really, really important.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So something that'll get you off the pillow.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to allocate enough energy, so whatever that looks like, in order to really get it flying. So I kind of think about launching a company similar to trying to get a plane, off the ground when you're leaving the airport. Right? So you need to be able to have enough energy to get the plane in the air.
Yeah.
And that's like and it's hard to get it there.
Yeah.
But then you got to keep it in the air.
Yeah.
And then there's service stuff and there's fuel and then it's gonna land and fly again. So it's one thing I just heard from a motivational speaker even this morning is comparing business to birthing a child. So you have 9 months with the child in the mom's stomach, but once the baby's born, there's a whole nother slew of work to do, and having a mindset that once you get to this threshold, that there's a lot more work to do. And his language is almost like being reborn, and you hear it in business in different language in reference to what's the language I'm thinking about? Learning how to be uncomfortable, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. And it's along those lines, but took it to another level. And I never thought of it that way. And it's very true. Because when you're a small company, you're a lot like skinnier. It's easier for you to pivot. And then, I've been in companies with over 3,000 stores, $1 billion. Pivoting is much harder. So it's like you're like fat and sloppy, right? Because you've been eating, you don't have much competition. So it's much harder to pivot. Like you can lean on people like similar to a heavy guy playing basketball under the hoop. But, so you got to understand like where your weaknesses are and then be intentional to find creative ways to kind of solve those problems, which a lot of companies do a great job of doing.
Okay, that's what's up.
So I do want to add one thing. Also have a solid business plan and learn what a business plan is. So like I've had some great mentors and, developing an actual organizational chart. You may not use it in the beginning, but you have that in writing and what that looks like
Yeah.
when you meet your SMART goal, your measured goal.
Yeah.
And and the other and you want a true operations manual similar to like McDonald's. So you have a
Yeah.
recipe. So like when I leave an organization, I want it to continue to be great without me.
That's what's
So I
up.
don't care how talented I am. It could be Michael Jordan, it could
Yeah.
be Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
If you have the right, recipe and the right operations manual, you'll be surprised with how far you can get. And usually one of the things I really look at when I'm trying to help someone is three things. So it's vision, purpose, and values, right? So vision is really what you want to do, like to serve the community, like like with your nonprofit.
Yeah.
You're trying to help underprivileged people within your surrounding neighborhood. So whether they're homeless or they're incarcerated or substance abuse, right?
Yeah.
So that's a clear vision, right?
Yeah.
And then you have a long-term vision of what that would look like. So whether it's several homes or you're gonna do more motivational stuff, kind of have you can see it, taste it, feel it, right?
Yeah.
And then your purpose, is really important to really define. It makes it so much easier as you grow and hire people to really understand what they really need to do on a daily basis. And then the values allow you to hire and fire people, including yourself, and hold you accountable, and it needs to be authentic to who the company is, you know. So just be honest about it, and then it keeps alignment. So those things, in my opinion, are very important.
Yeah.
Especially for sustained growth. If you want, I assume if you're launching a business, you want it to be great, unless you're trying to launch something and then sell it to a bigger company later on.
Yeah. So I love that. So what I got essentially is for an aspiring entrepreneur, passion, because you really got it. Because there's gonna be days where it's hard to get out of bed, or you feeling defeated, and you got to be into it.
Yeah, you got to self-motivate. That will self-motivate you.
That you're into it, and then the other thing is a business plan. I think the last question that I have is tying those two together. Is I think the beginning is the hardest part usually, right? And sometimes there's so many different aspects that you don't know. It's hard to kind of put together a solid plan.
I agree.
Right? So if someone is taking their first steps, they have the passion and they want the plan, but they don't know everything that should be in the plan. I guess there's a lot of tools nowadays that you
There's a lot of resources, but let's say you can generate revenue.
Yeah.
Like let's say it's something simple like a landscaping business.
Okay.
Get the money. But when you get the money and it's going into the fall and the winter and things are slowing down and it's not snowing, right? You already tasted and saw and can look back on what you've been doing, and that's a good time to start working on that, right? Because you may have a talent and then you just use the passion to build it, but be intentional on putting things in writing and getting organized.
Gotcha.
And it's so sad when you see like a guy who owns a restaurant for so long and is successful and and they can't pass it on to anybody, right? And I feel like if in the beginning when they first started doing well, if they had all that in writing, they would have been grooming someone from the bottom, who started waiting tables or a busboy or and because I guarantee you there's other passionate people a lot of passionate people that made that business successful that had a lot of love into that business that could have been able to take that recipe and move the legacy further.
I hear you. So just to reiterate, make sure I understand what you're saying, what I'm hearing is you get started with the simple items that you have. Make that money, go do that thing, and have a general plan. Your plan could be very simple. It doesn't have to be very detailed or anything, but it could be a very simple plan overview. Just write down what it is you're trying to do. And then as you go,
especially as you get money.
and as you're making money,
Yeah.
as you're learning and understanding, you just maybe just keep rewriting it, and then with more detail, with more information based on experience and knowledge. Does that sound?
Yeah, that is it. But specifically to keep it simple, it's you developing like a operation manual,
Yeah.
like a step-by-step process.
Right. Yeah.
And then you making sure, especially if you're growing, you're hiring people,
Yeah.
that you have a clear vision, you have a clear purpose, and you have honest, clear values.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. No, and that's significant, right? Because if you can have that clear vision, the outcome that you want, the clearer it is,
the better.
the more focused you can make your energies to make that a reality. If it's general or hazy, I mean, you can still work towards it, but a lot of your energy is going to be like kind of thrown off and wasted and not towards that more specific goal.
Exactly. Like even if you're just copying, like when like Burger King became bigger and bigger and McDonald's had a recipe, every fingerprint is a little different, right?
Yeah.
So it's really understanding like who you are, what your niche is, and is authentic to who you are, right? And then allows that business to really scale, or you can take it where you want to take it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, like the example of like these restaurant owners, they don't want it to close,
Yeah.
but there was no like.
There's no
it's
structure.
hard, and it's hard later on.
Yeah.
Like in the later years to kind of figure that out because you kind of know what you know.
It's all in your head. You're the business.
Yeah.
Without you there, it can't run without you because you have it all up here.
Yep.
You don't have it
And
out.
maybe they're hoping one of their kids would have took it.
Yeah.
And it's just sad.
It is. Well, Ja, I appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you again for coming and for your insights. How can our listeners connect with you or reach out to you if they wanted to get more of your time or work with one of your businesses or entities?
So you could always come in person, like on site.
To the Lewis Business Center.
Business Center.
Okay.
And then I give out my phone number. So if you want to call, it's 203-565-4766. And then my email is JAH as in happy at slewisrealestate.com.
All right.
And then as I grow ABBA more and more, I'll probably transition most of my communication through ABBA. But for now, I usually cross brand and then focus on the Lewis Real Estate side.
All right. So just reach out to you directly. Phone number or email is the best way to get you.
Yeah, or if you're in the neighborhood, you're
Stop by
close.
the Lewis Business Center.
Yeah, stop by and check us out.
All right.
And then hopefully we get some transactions too.
Yes, sir. And the Lewis Business Center address is 1000 to.
So it's the building is 994-1000 Farmington Ave.
Okay.
And then we have a second property where my office is.
And where we're recording.
Yeah, it's 75 Brace Road in West Hartford.
Yeah.
And we're blessed. We actually have quite a bit of parking, so parking is not an issue, especially on the busy nights.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you, Razul. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. And remember to invest in yourself.